Jake Morrison was flying his cargo ship through space near Jupiter when his screens started flashing with warning lights. Something big was happening out there in the darkness. He was supposed to ignore anything unusual and just deliver his cargo to Mars Station, but curiosity got the better of him. Jake changed course and moved toward the energy readings his sensors were picking up. What he saw made his breath catch in his throat. A beautiful silver ship unlike anything Earth had ever built was being torn apart by weapons fire. 3 dark warships surrounded it and fired bright purple beams that cut through the silver hull like paper. Jake watched in horror as the silver ship exploded in a wave of violet flames that lit up the void of space. He knew he should leave, but something made him stay. His cargo hauler had no weapons and weak shields, but he pushed forward into the debris field. Pieces of the destroyed ship floated all around him, and he carefully navigated through the wreckage. Then his sensors picked up 2 life signs. One was in a small escape pod, and the other was something massive floating nearby. Jake brought his ship closer and saw the escape pod first. It was damaged and leaking air fast. Inside, he could see a figure slumped against the window, but what caught his attention was the creature next to the pod. It was a dragon, not the mythical kind from old Earth stories, but a real living dragon floating in space. Its scales were deep crimson red, and its body was as long as his entire cargo ship. The dragon looked badly hurt with burns across its wings and blood drifting from wounds on its side. Jake made a decision that would change everything. He opened his cargo bay and used the loading arms to carefully pull both the escape pod and the dragon inside. It took almost an hour, and he had to rearrange all his cargo containers to make room for the massive creature. The dragon was too big to fit completely, so its tail hung out into the bay entrance. Jake sealed the bay as best he could and started the atmospheric processors. Once there was air and pressure, he went back to check on his unexpected passengers. The escape pod opened with a hiss, and inside was a woman. At least she looked like a woman, but her ears were long and pointed, and her skin had a faint shimmer like starlight. She was unconscious, and her breathing was shallow. Strange burns covered her arms, and a deep cut ran across her forehead. Jake carefully lifted her out of the pod and carried her to his small medical bay. The dragon was too big to move, so he did what he could for it in the cargo hold. He sprayed medical foam on the worst wounds and covered the creature with thermal blankets. The dragon's chest rose and fell slowly, and Jake hoped that meant it would survive. He set course for Earth at maximum speed and sent an emergency message ahead. By the time he reached Earth orbit, the military was waiting for him. Ships surrounded his cargo hauler, and armed soldiers boarded as soon as he docked. They took the woman away on a stretcher and brought a team of scientists to examine the dragon. Jake tried to explain what happened, but nobody seemed interested in listening. They put him in a small room and told him to wait. Hours passed before anyone came to talk to him. When they finally did, it was a stern woman in a military uniform who introduced herself as Captain Lisa Grant. She asked him the same questions over and over. Why did he stop to help? Did he communicate with the aliens? Were there any other ships? Jake answered honestly, but he could tell she did not trust him. Meanwhile, in another part of the facility, the alien woman woke up. She panicked when she found herself in a strange place surrounded by humans. She tried to speak, but nobody could understand her language. It sounded like music mixed with wind chimes. The doctors tried to calm her down, but she pushed them away and tried to leave. Security guards blocked the door, and she screamed something in her language. Then the building shook. Everyone felt it like an earthquake. The alien woman closed her eyes and held up her hands. A barrier of golden light appeared around her and pushed everyone back against the walls. The guards raised their weapons, but before they could fire, the dragon's voice echoed in everyone's minds. It was not words exactly, but feelings and images. The message was clear. Do not harm her or face destruction. Captain Lisa Grant arrived at the medical facility within minutes. She ordered everyone to lower their weapons and back away. Through hand gestures and simple drawings, she tried to communicate with the alien woman. It took time, but slowly they began to understand each other. The woman drew a picture of herself being chased. She drew ships firing at her and her home world turning away. She drew the dragon protecting her, and then Earth. She pointed at Jake's picture on a screen and put her hand over her heart. Whatever that gesture meant, it seemed important. While this was happening, something else arrived at Earth. A fleet of elegant silver ships appeared at the edge of the solar system. They were the same design as the destroyed ship Jake had found. Earth's defense satellites detected them immediately, and alarms rang out across every military base. The alien fleet sent a message. It took the computers hours to translate, but when they did, the message was clear and terrifying. The ships demanded the return of someone they called the Failed Seventh. They said she was a criminal who stole a sacred beast. If Earth did not hand her over immediately, they would destroy everything. Captain Grant brought this message to the alien woman. When she heard it through the translation device, the woman's face went pale. She spoke urgently in her musical language, and the dragon's telepathic voice translated in everyone's minds. She was Princess Lyrandel from a race called the Eldari. She was the seventh daughter of an empire that ruled over 100 worlds. Her people feared her because she bonded with the last of an ancient dragon species called starfire dragons. They exiled her and spread lies that she was worthless and weak, but she was not weak. She was dangerous to those who wanted power through cruelty. The ships in orbit did not want to rescue her. They wanted to silence her forever. And now Earth had become part of her problem just by helping her. Captain Grant made a difficult choice. She ordered the medical staff to continue treating Lyrandel and the dragon. She sent messages to Earth's leaders explaining the situation, and she sent a reply to the Eldari fleet. Earth needed time to decide. The alien ships gave them 1 day. During that day, Lyrandel slowly recovered with the help of Earth's medicine. She learned a few English words and taught the humans a few Eldari phrases. Jake was finally allowed to see her. When she saw him, she stood up despite her injuries and bowed deeply. The dragon Ashen Claw rumbled in approval through the telepathic connection. Lyrandel made Jake understand something important. He saved her when she had no value to him. He risked his life for a stranger. That kind of selflessness was rare in the galaxy. The Eldari had forgotten such kindness long ago. That night, Lyrandel sat with Captain Grant and other Earth leaders. Through Ashen Claw's translation, she told them everything. She explained the galactic community and the power struggles between empires. She warned them that the Eldari were not the only threat. Someone else was hunting her. A rogue leader named Malakar, who wanted to capture her and use Ashen Claw's power as a weapon. Earth had accidentally put itself in the middle of a conflict that spanned star systems. As the deadline approached, Earth's leaders argued about what to do. Some wanted to surrender Lyrandel to save Earth. Others believed that helping her was the right thing to do regardless of the cost. Jake spoke up in the meeting. Though he was just a cargo pilot with no authority, he said that Earth should judge itself by how it treats those who cannot fight back. If they abandoned Lyrandel now, they would prove they were no better than the empires that valued only power. His words surprised everyone. The vote was close, but Earth decided to grant Lyrandel asylum. When the Eldari fleet heard Earth's answer, they prepared to attack. But Lyrandel and Ashen Claw were not helpless anymore. The dragon spread his wings and roared. The sound crossed the void of space itself. Then Lyrandel raised her hands, and a shield of golden light appeared around Earth's moon base. Just as the Eldari fired their first shot, the attack bounced off harmlessly. The Eldari ships retreated in confusion. Nobody had expected the failed seventh to have so much power. Captain Grant looked at Lyrandel with new understanding. Earth had not saved a helpless refugee. Earth had made an ally, who might be their only hope of survival in the dangerous galaxy they just discovered. The Eldari fleet withdrew from Earth's orbit, but their final message was clear. Earth had made a powerful enemy. The silver ships disappeared into hyperspace, leaving Earth alone with its new alien guest. Ambassador Claire Hayes was assigned to work with Lyrandel and learn about the galaxy beyond their solar system. Claire was a patient woman who specialized in difficult negotiations. She quickly realized that Lyrandel was nothing like the monster her people described. The Eldari princess was kind and thoughtful. She spent hours teaching Earth scientists about alien technology and starship design. She showed them star maps of the galaxy with thousands of inhabited worlds that Earth never knew existed. Jake Morrison became her guide and friend. Since he saved her life, Ashenclaw had marked him with something the dragon called a debt of fire. It meant their fates were connected. Jake could sometimes feel the dragon's emotions and hear whispers of Ashenclaw's ancient thoughts. Lyrandel explained that this had never happened with a human before. Dragons usually only bonded with the Eldari royal bloodline. The fact that Ash marked Jake meant something important, but even Lyrandel did not fully understand what life on Earth began to change rapidly. The government built special facilities to house Ashenclaw since no normal building was large enough. The dragon preferred to stay outdoors, though, and often flew above the oceans where he could swim in the deep water. People gathered to watch whenever he flew overhead. Children drew pictures of the magnificent crimson dragon. Adults debated whether Earth made the right choice, protecting Lyrandel. Some people called Jake a hero. Others called him a fool who brought danger to Earth. Jake tried to ignore both labels and just did his job. He was officially assigned as Lyrandel's liaison, which meant he spent most days helping her communicate with various Earth officials. Commander Ben Carter was Jake's oldest friend from their school days. Ben joined the military, while Jake became a cargo pilot. Now Ben was assigned to Earth's defense coordination, and he took his job seriously. He worked with Lyrandel to learn everything about space combat. She taught him about energy shields and hyperspace jumps. She explained how most alien weapons worked and what Earth's current technology could defend against. The answer was not encouraging. Earth's weapons were like toys compared to what the galaxy possessed. After 6 days of relative peace, something appeared in Earth's outer solar system. It was not the Eldari fleet returning. This was a different group of ships. They were painted deep purple with gold trim. Their design was aggressive with sharp angles and heavy armor. Captain Lisa Grant's sensors counted 30 ships. Each one was bigger than anything in Earth's navy. A message came through and Earth's computers translated it. The message was from someone who called himself High Inquisitor Malachar. His voice was smooth and dangerous like honey mixed with poison. Malachar said he came in peace. He claimed to be Lyrandel's friend. He offered Earth protection from the vengeful Eldari Empire. All Earth had to do was hand over the princess and her dragon. In exchange, Malachar would give Earth advanced weapons and technology. He would ensure that no hostile empire ever bothered Earth again. The offer sounded generous. Ambassador Claire Hayes did not trust it for a second. She called a meeting with all of Earth's leaders, plus Lyrandel Jake and Commander Ben Carter. Lyrandel's face went white when she heard Malachar's name. Through Ashenclaw's telepathic link, she shared her memories. Malachar was once a high official in the Eldari Empire. He believed that power should rule the galaxy. He wanted to conquer peaceful worlds and force them into submission. When Lyrandel's mother, the Empress, refused his plans, he left and formed his own faction. He gathered followers who shared his brutal philosophy. They called themselves the Crimson Inquisition. Malachar had been hunting Lyrandel for years. He wanted Ashenclaw because starfire dragons were the most powerful creatures in the known galaxy. With a starfire dragon under his control, Malachar could destroy entire fleets. He could rule through fear. Lyrandel begged Earth's leaders not to trust him. She said Malachar would betray them the moment he had what he wanted. Admiral Kate Sullivan asked Lyrandel to prove that Malachar was dangerous. Lyrandel nodded and asked everyone to look at the video screens. Malachar was transmitting a demonstration of his power. His ships surrounded a large asteroid far from Earth. Then they fired. Purple energy beams hit the asteroid from all sides. The rock, which was the size of a small mountain, exploded into dust. It took less than 3 seconds. Earth's most powerful missiles could not have done that. After showing his strength, Malachar gave Earth 7 days to decide. He said he would wait patiently for their answer. But everyone knew it was a threat. During those 7 days, Earth's military worked around the clock. Admiral Kate Sullivan assigned teams to work with Lyrandel. She taught them everything she knew about energy weapons and shield technology. Human engineers tried to adapt the alien concepts to Earth's existing ships. It was slow work, but they made progress. Lyrandel also spent time with Jake and Ashenclaw. She taught Jake how to meditate and open his mind to the dragon's consciousness. At first, Jake found it overwhelming. The dragon's thoughts were vast and ancient. Ash had lived for over 3,000 years. His memories included wars and peace treaties and the birth and death of civilizations. But slowly, Jake learned to focus. He discovered he could see through Ashenclaw's eyes when the dragon flew. He could feel the wind under Ash's wings and the power in the dragon's muscles. Lyrandel was amazed. She said that no non-Eldari had ever shared consciousness with a Starfire dragon. The bond between Jake and Ashenclaw was unique. It proved that worthiness was not about bloodline or species. It was about character and heart. Jake felt honored but also scared. Having a connection to an ancient dragon was overwhelming for a simple cargo pilot. Ben Carter joked that Jake went from hauling boxes to riding dragons without any middle steps. On the 6th day, Malachar's patience ended. His fleet moved closer to Earth. Warning messages flooded into military headquarters. The Crimson Inquisition ships took positions around the planet, blocking all escape routes. Then Malachar sent one final message. He said Earth's time was up. If they did not surrender Lyrandel immediately, he would demonstrate his power on Earth itself. Admiral Sullivan ordered all defense forces to battle stations. Earth's small fleet of military ships moved to intercept. Captain Grant led fighter squadrons into space. Commander Carter coordinated ground-based missile systems. But everyone knew they were hopelessly outmatched. Malachar's ships outnumbered them and had far superior weapons. Just as the first shots were about to be fired, Lyrandel and Ashenclaw flew into space. The dragon's massive form dwarfed Earth's fighter jets. Lyrandel stood on Ashenclaw's back, her hands glowing with golden energy. She called out to Malachar in the Eldari language. Ashenclaw translated for everyone to hear. She challenged him to face her directly. She said if he was brave, he would fight her himself, instead of hiding behind his fleet. She said true warriors did not threaten innocent worlds. Malachar laughed. His response was to order all his ships to fire at once. 30 warships unleashed their weapons. Purple energy beams converged on Earth. But Lyrandel and Ashenclaw were ready. The dragon roared and spread his wings wide. A barrier of red and gold light appeared in front of Earth. The enemy weapons hit the barrier and stopped. For several seconds, the shield held. Then cracks began to appear. Maintaining a shield that size against so much firepower was impossible, even for a Starfire dragon. Lyrandel poured her own energy into the barrier, trying to reinforce it. On Earth below, Jake suddenly felt pain in his chest. The debt of fire was pulling at him. He could feel Ashenclaw struggling. Without thinking, Jake closed his eyes and focused on the connection. He pushed his own strength through the bond. It was not much compared to a dragon's power, but it was enough to steady the shield for a few more seconds. Earth's forces used those seconds to strike back. Captain Grant led her fighters in a coordinated attack on the nearest enemy ship. They targeted its weapon systems using tactics Lyrandel taught them. Commander Carter launched every missile Earth had. The missiles were primitive compared to alien weapons, but there were hundreds of them. They swarmed around Malachar's ships like angry bees. Admiral Sullivan's fleet fired their railguns at maximum power. The combined assault surprised Malachar's forces. 2 of his ships took damage. One lost its shields completely, but it was not enough. Malachar ordered his fleet to intensify their attack. Ashenclaw roared in pain as the barrier finally shattered. The dragon's wings faltered. Lyrandel screamed as feedback from the broken shield hit her mind. They started falling toward Earth. Jake felt their distress through the bond. He wanted to help, but he was just a human on the ground with no way to reach them. Then something impossible happened. Space tore open like someone ripping paper through the tear. Came more ships. These were silver like the Eldari, but different. They were older designs covered in ancient symbols. The new ships immediately engaged Malachar's fleet. Energy weapons lit up the space around Earth. Jake realized these must be allies, but where did they come from? Lyrandel managed to stabilize Ashenclaw's flight. She looked at the new arrivals with shock. Through the telepathic link, she whispered one word. Sisters Malachar's demonstration had attracted attention. He did not want. And now the real battle was about to begin. The battle in Earth's orbit stopped suddenly. When the ancient ships arrived, Malachar's fleet pulled back to defensive positions. The silver ships did not pursue. Instead, they moved to form a protective ring around Earth. From the largest ship came a transmission. The voice was female and spoke in the Eldari language. Ashenclaw translated for the humans listening. The voice said that Earth was now under the protection of the royal Eldari princesses. Any further attacks would be considered an act of war against the Empire itself. Malachar responded with anger. He claimed that Earth was harboring a criminal. He said the royal family had no right to interfere. The female voice cut him off. She said that the Empress herself sent them to investigate. She said Malachar would answer for attacking a protected world. The Inquisitor's ships began to retreat. But before leaving, Malachar sent one last message. He promised this was not over. Earth would regret choosing the wrong side. Then his purple fleet jumped into hyperspace and vanished. Lyrandel brought Ashenclaw down to land near the military headquarters. She was exhausted and bleeding from her nose. The effort of maintaining that massive shield had nearly killed her. Medical teams rushed to help her, but she waved them away. She needed to meet her sisters. 6 smaller ships descended from the protective fleet. They landed in a cleared field near the coast. From each ship emerged a woman who looked like Lyrandel. They all had pointed ears and shimmering skin, but each one had different colored hair and eyes. The eldest stepped forward. Her hair was silver white and her eyes were like ice. She wore armor decorated with blue gems. She looked at Lyrandel for a long moment. Then she did something unexpected. She bowed. The other 5 sisters followed her lead. They all bowed to their youngest sister. Lyrandel seemed confused but bowed back. The eldest sister spoke in Eldari. Ashenclaw translated. She introduced herself as Princess Meridian. She said she came to apologize. She and her sisters had been wrong about Lyrandel. They believed the lies their mother spread. They thought Lyrandel was weak and worthless, but recent events proved otherwise. Only the youngest sister had the courage to refuse becoming a weapon of conquest. Only Lyrandel valued peace over power, and only she found a world brave enough to stand with her against superior forces. Meridian said that she and her sisters were ashamed. They asked for forgiveness. Lyrandel started crying. She embraced Meridian, and then each of her other sisters. It was a reunion, years in the making. Ambassador Claire Hayes watched this with interest. She invited all the princesses to a meeting inside the headquarters. The building had to be modified quickly to accommodate 6 more royal visitors. The meeting room was crowded with Earth's leaders and 7 Eldari princesses. Each princess had their own dragon, though none as large as Ashenclaw. The dragons waited outside, occasionally rumbling to each other in their ancient language. Princess Meridian explained the full situation to Earth's leaders. She said the Empress Seraphina exiled Lyrandel to protect her. The Eldari court was full of ambitious nobles who wanted to use the princesses as weapons. Lyrandel refused to conquer innocent worlds. Her sisters at the time went along with their orders, But over the years, they grew tired of the endless wars. They saw that power through cruelty only created more enemies. When they heard that Lyrandel survived and that a primitive world defended her, they were curious. They wanted to see what kind of people would risk everything for someone who offered them nothing. When Malachar attacked Earth, the sisters made a choice. They defied their orders and came to help. Now they faced consequences. The Empress might punish them, but they decided it was worth the risk. Admiral Kate Sullivan asked why the Empress spread lies about Lyrandel. Meridian said it was politics. If the court knew Lyrandel was strong, they would hunt her by calling her worthless. The Empress made Lyrandel invisible. Nobody chases something they think has no value. It was a cruel mercy. Captain Lisa Grant asked about Malachar. The second eldest sister, Princess Valeria, answered. She said Malachar was once the Empress's most trusted advisor. He led military campaigns and expanded the empire, but his methods became increasingly brutal. He destroyed worlds that refused to surrender. He enslaved entire populations. When the Empress tried to stop him, he left and took a third of the Imperial fleet with him. Now he built his own faction through fear and violence. He wanted to capture Lyrandel because her bond with Ashenclaw was special. Starfire dragons were the most powerful creatures in existence. With Ashenclaw under his control, Malachar could challenge the Empress herself. That was why he would never stop hunting Lyrandel. Commander, Ben Carter asked if more enemies would come. The third sister, Princess Astrid, said yes. Word was spreading through the galaxy about Earth. Different factions would come to investigate. Some would offer trade, some would offer threats. Earth needed to be ready. Over the next days, more ships arrived at Earth's system. They came from different empires and factions. There were the Gen Consortium merchant vessels, there were Craventhi warrior clans, there were independent scouts and information brokers. Each group wanted to meet the world that harbored the failed 7th ambassador. Hayes proposed something unprecedented. She suggested hosting a summit on Earth's moon. All interested parties could send representatives. They would discuss Earth's place in the galaxy peacefully. Most factions agreed. The summit was scheduled for 1 week later. During that week, Earth prepared frantically. They built a meeting facility on the lunar surface. Security was the main concern. Jake worked with Lyrandel and her sisters to learn about each faction attending the Eldari Empire, would send representatives including high nobles from the court. Malachar's Crimson Inquisition would send observers, though nobody trusted them. The Gen Consortium wanted trading rights. The Craventhi wanted to test Earth's warriors. Several smaller factions just wanted to watch history being made. Princess Meridian warned that the summit would be dangerous. Many groups had conflicting interests. Violence could erupt at any moment. She and her sisters would provide security with their dragons. Earth's military would also be on high alert. The summit began with formal introductions. Representatives from a dozen different species gathered in the lunar facility. Some looked humanoid. Others were completely alien. One species was made of living crystal. Another existed as clouds of glowing gas held together by energy fields. Jake attended as Lyrandel's companion. He felt completely out of place among these galactic powers, but Lyrandel held his hand and told him not to be afraid. Ashenclaw's presence in his mind gave him courage. Ambassador Hayes opened the summit with a speech. She said Earth was new to galactic politics. They had no interest in conquest or domination. They simply wanted to exist peacefully. They offered friendship to those who came in good faith, but they would defend themselves against threats. The Eldari noble who represented the Empress spoke next. His name was Lord Theron, and he looked down on everyone. He said Earth should return Lyrandel immediately. She was Eldari property. Her dragon belonged to the Empire. Earth had no right to interfere in Imperial affairs, Ambassador Hayes responded calmly. She said people were not property. Lyrandel asked for asylum and Earth granted it. The Eldari Empire could complain, but Earth would not change its decision. Lord Theron's face turned red with anger. The Gen Consortium representative spoke up. It was a being that looked like a silver squid. Through a translator, it said business was more important than politics. Earth had resources the consortium wanted. In exchange, they would provide technology and protection. The Kraventhi speaker was a massive warrior covered in scales. He said his people respected strength. Earth showed courage, fighting Malakar. The Kraventhi offered an alliance of warriors. Then Malakar's representative stood. It was a thin, pale figure with cold eyes. He said the Inquisitor was disappointed. Earth chose poorly, but his offer still stood. Surrender the princess and receive rewards. Refuse and face consequences. Before anyone could respond, an alarm blared through the facility. Something was attacking the summit. Explosions rocked the lunar base. Security scanners showed ships descending on the meeting location. They were Crimson Inquisition vessels. Malakar had lied about sending only observers. This was an ambush. The representatives panicked and rushed for exits. Guards tried to maintain order, but chaos spread quickly. Jake grabbed Lyrandel's arm and pulled her toward safety. But armed soldiers in purple armor blocked their path. They raised weapons and aimed at the princess. Ashenclaw's roar echoed across the lunar surface. The dragon smashed through the facility's dome. Moon dust and air rushed out into space. Emergency shields activated containing the breach. Ash landed in front of Lyrandel, protecting her with his massive body. The soldiers fired energy weapons, but the blasts bounced off the dragon's scales. Princess Meridian and her sisters arrived with their own dragons. They engaged the Inquisition forces. The summit turned into a battlefield. During the fighting, something worse was revealed. Malakar's ships opened their cargo holds. From inside came 6 more dragons. They were smaller than Ashenclaw, but still formidable, and they were attacking everything in sight. But something was wrong with them. Their movements were jerky and unnatural. Their eyes glowed with unnatural purple light. Lyrandel gasped when she saw them. She recognized these dragons. They belonged to other Eldari princesses, cousins and distant relatives who disappeared years ago. Through Ashenclaw's translation, she realized the horrible truth. Malakar had captured these dragons and their bonded partners. He put control devices in their brains. Now he controlled them completely. The dragons were slaves forced to fight against their will, and somewhere on those ships, the captured princesses were imprisoned, unable to help their tortured companions. Lyrandel's face filled with rage. She told Jake that Malakar just made his final mistake. He thought captured dragons would make him unstoppable, but he did not understand how bonds worked. Every dragon felt the pain of their enslaved kin, and Ashenclaw was the eldest of all dragons. His rage at seeing his children tortured was beyond measure. The dragon reared up and released a roar that shattered windows across the lunar base. It was not just sound. It was a psychic call that echoed across dimensional space. A summoning that had not been heard in 1,000 years. Jake felt it through their bond. He did not understand the dragon's ancient language, but he felt the meaning. Ashenclaw was calling for help. Not from other dragons, but from something older. Something that existed before dragons. Before the Eldari Empire. Before civilizations rose and fell. The call went out into the darkness between stars. And somewhere far away, something ancient heard and began to wake. The battle at the lunar summit spread to Earth's orbit within minutes. Malakar's full fleet emerged from hyperspace. There were not 30 ships this time. There were hundreds. Admiral Kate Sullivan watched her screens in horror. Earth's entire military could not stop this invasion. Captain Lisa Grant led fighter squadrons against impossible odds. Her pilots were brave but outmatched. Commander Ben Carter coordinated defense stations and missile batteries, but the enemy shields absorbed everything Earth threw at them. On the lunar surface, Lyrandel and her sisters fought desperately. 6 captured dragons under Malakar's control attacked with mechanical precision. They showed no mercy. Their eyes glowed with that terrible purple light. Each controlled dragon wore a metal collar that pulsed with energy. Lyrandel tried to reach them with her telepathic abilities, but the control devices blocked her. She could feel their pain and desperation. The dragons wanted to stop fighting, but they had no choice. Their minds were locked in cages of technology. Princess Meridian shouted orders to her sisters. They coordinated their attacks, trying not to harm the enslaved dragons, but the controlled beasts felt no such restraint. They fought to kill Jake, stayed close to Lyrandel, trying to protect her. His cargo pilot training did not include combat, but he had courage and he had his connection to Ashenclaw. The dragon was engaged with 3 controlled dragons at once. Ash was larger and stronger, but the controlled ones fought without fear of death. They threw themselves at him regardless of injury. Blood from many wounds stained Ashenclaw's crimson scales. Jake felt every injury through their bond. Each wound on the dragon sent pain through Jake's body. He gritted his teeth and pushed through it in space. Admiral Sullivan's fleet was being destroyed. Earth's ships exploded one by one. Escape pods scattered like seeds in the wind. The Admiral gave the order to evacuate. But retreat was not an option. Malakar's ships surrounded the planet. They formed a blockade that nothing could escape. The Inquisitor's face appeared on every screen. His message played across Earth. He said humanity made a foolish choice. They could have lived peacefully under his protection. Now they would learn the price of defiance. After he captured Lyrandel and her dragon, he would make Earth an example. The planet would be enslaved. Its people would serve his empire. Its resources would fuel his war machine. Malakar gave Earth one last chance. Surrender Lyrandel now, and he would spare the civilian population. The offer was displayed for everyone to see. People in cities around Earth watched in fear. Some called for the government to give up the alien princess. Why should Earth suffer for someone else's war? But others remembered that Lyrandel fought to protect their world. She nearly died maintaining that shield when Malakar first attacked. Surrendering her would prove Earth had no honor. Ambassador Claire Hayes responded to Malakar's ultimatum. Her message was broadcast across all channels. She said Earth chose to stand with those who needed help. That was what made them human. Power and fear would not rule here. Earth would never surrender. The message was defiant, but everyone knew it was also desperate. Earth was losing badly. Back on the moon, Ashenclaw collapsed. 3 controlled dragons had worn him down through relentless attacks. The great Starfire dragon struggled to rise. Blood poured from wounds on his wings and flanks. Lyrandel screamed and ran to him. She pressed her hands against his scales, trying to heal him with her energy. But she was exhausted too. The battle had drained her power. Jake felt Ashenclaw's pain overwhelming him. The dragon was dying. Through their bond, Jake experienced 3,000 years of memories. He saw ancient wars and beautiful worlds. He felt the joy of flight and the sorrow of loss. He understood that dragons were not just powerful creatures. They were guardians. They existed to protect life and maintain balance. When the Eldari Empire enslaved them, they corrupted that purpose. Now the last true Starfire dragon was fading, and with him died hope. Jake could not accept that. He pushed through his fear and exhaustion. He knelt beside Ashenclaw and placed his hand on the dragon's head. He spoke, though he knew the dragon could hear his thoughts. He said he would not let Ash die. He said the dragon saved him, so now he would return that gift. Lyrandel looked at Jake with wide eyes. She realized what he intended to do. She tried to stop him. A true bonding was not like the mark of fire. It was permanent and dangerous. Most beings could not survive the process. Jake would likely die, and even if he survived, he would never be fully human again. The bond would change him forever. Jake smiled at her. He said he made his choice. Just like Earth chose to protect her. He was choosing to protect his friend. Before Lyrandel could argue, Jake closed his eyes and opened his mind completely. The bond that had been a thin thread became a rope, then a chain, Then a river of energy that flowed between human and dragon power surged through Jake's body. His skin felt like it was burning. His bones felt like they were breaking and reforming. Pain beyond anything he ever experienced consumed him, but he held on through the agony he felt. Ashenclaw's surprise. The dragon tried to pull back, fearing he would kill Jake, but Jake pushed forward. He poured every bit of his strength and will into the bond. Human determination met dragon power, and something impossible happened. The bond stabilized, but it was different from any dragon bond before, usually one being dominated. The dragon's power overwhelmed the partner's mind, but Jake's humanity somehow balanced. Against Ashenclaw's ancient strength, they became true equals. Two minds sharing one purpose. Lyrandel watched in amazement as patterns appeared on Jake's skin. They looked like scales, but made of light. His eyes briefly glowed the same crimson as Ashenclaw's. Then the light faded, leaving Jake changed but alive. Ashenclaw rose to his feet. His wounds began healing at incredible speed. The dragon roared with renewed strength. But it was not just Ash's power that increased. The bond created a feedback loop. Jake's human adaptability combined with dragon. Might Lyrandel felt it too. She was connected to both of them. The three of them formed something unprecedented. A tri-bond between human Eldari and dragon power flowed between all three, each one making the others stronger. Together they were more than the sum of their parts. Ashenclaw spread his wings and took flight. The controlled dragons attacked again, but this time Ash moved differently. He fought with human cunning, mixed with dragon ferocity. Jake's tactical thinking guided the dragon's instincts. Together, they were unstoppable. Ash dodged attacks that should have hit him. He countered with precision that controlled drones could not match. More importantly, the tri-bond gave Lyrandel new strength. She focused her power on the control collars before she was too weak to break through. But now with Jake and Ash supporting her, she tried again. Her golden energy wrapped around the nearest controlled dragon's collar. She felt the device's programming. It was sophisticated technology that suppressed the dragon's will, but it had a weakness. It required constant signal from a control ship. Lyrandel reached out with her expanded consciousness. She felt Jake's support through the bond. She found the control signal and attacked it. For a moment, nothing happened. Then the collar sparked and shattered. The freed dragon stopped mid-attack. Its purple glowing eyes returned to normal green. The creature cried out in relief and rage. It turned on the other controlled dragons, not to harm them, but to shield them from Malakar's commands. One by one, Lyrandel freed the enslaved dragons. Each time became easier. The tri-bond energy grew stronger with practice. Princess Meridian and her sisters joined the effort. They combined their powers with Lyrandel's 6. More Eldari princesses all channeling energy through the tri-bond. The effect was devastating to Malakar's forces. Every control collar on every enslaved dragon shattered simultaneously. Dozens of dragons were freed in an instant, and they were furious. The freed dragons turned against the Crimson Inquisition fleet. They tore through ship hulls with claws and teeth. They breathed fire and energy that melted armor. Malakar's perfect weapons became his doom. In space, the tide of battle shifted dramatically. The freed dragons attacked the blockade. Earth's remaining forces rallied. Captain Grant led her squadrons through gaps the dragons created. Commander Carter's missiles found targets in the chaos. Admiral Sullivan coordinated a counterattack, but Malakar was not finished. His command ship was a massive vessel larger than anything else in the battle. It powered up a weapon that made all his other ships look small. The weapon was built into the ship's entire front section. It glowed with purple energy, so bright it hurt to look at sensors. Detected power levels that could destroy a planet. Admiral Sullivan shouted a warning. The weapon was targeting Earth itself. If it fired, nothing could stop it. Humanity's home would be reduced to dust. Jake felt Lyrandel's fear through the bond. She knew that weapon. It was called a world breaker. The Eldari Empire built several of them long ago. They were banned because they were too destructive. Malachar must have stolen one. There was no defense against it. No shield could stop it. The weapon charged to full power. Malachar's voice came over the communication channels. He said, if he could not have Lyrandel and her dragon, then nobody would. He would destroy Earth and everything near it. Then he would hunt the princess across the galaxy. She would spend the rest of her life running and hiding, knowing that millions died because she refused to submit. Lyrandel cried out in despair. But Jake felt something else through their bond. Ashenclaw was not afraid. The dragon had a plan. It would require sacrifice, but it was the only way. Through the tri-bond, Jake and Lyrandel felt Ashenclaw's intention. The dragon would fly into the weapon as it fired. His body would absorb and redirect the blast. It would kill him, but Earth would survive. Lyrandel screamed no. She begged the dragon not to do it. But Ashenclaw was determined. He had lived for 3,000 years. He was tired of seeing good people suffer because of cruel leaders. If his death meant Earth lived, then it was a worthy end. Jake felt tears on his face. But he understood. This was what Guardians did. They protected life even at cost of their own. The World Breaker fired a beam of purple destruction, lanced toward Earth. Ashenclaw flew directly into its path. The dragon's body glowed as it absorbed the impossible energy. Jake and Lyrandel felt the dragon's pain through the bond. But they also felt his determination, and they made a choice together. They would not let Ash die alone. Both of them channeled their power through the tri-bond. Human, Eldari, and dragon became one being, 3 minds acting in perfect unity. Together they contained the World Breaker's energy. Together they redirected it. The purple beam curved in space. It bent around Earth like water flowing around a stone, then it shot back toward its source. Malachar had only seconds to realize his mistake. The World Breaker's energy hit his command ship. The vessel exploded in a blast, visible from Earth's surface. The shockwave destroyed every Crimson Inquisition ship nearby. The blockade was shattered. Malachar's invasion force was broken, but the effort of stopping the World Breaker devastated all 3 bond partners. Ashenclaw fell from the sky. Lyrandel collapsed unconscious. Jake's mind went dark. They survived, but barely. Jake woke up 3 days after the battle. He was in a hospital bed surrounded by medical equipment. His body ached, but he was alive. The first thing he noticed was the strange patterns on his arms. They looked like scales, but were part of his skin now. The tri-bond had changed him permanently. He could still feel Ashenclaw in his mind, though the connection was quieter now. The dragon was resting and healing. Lyrandel sat in a chair beside his bed. She looked exhausted but smiled when she saw him awake. She explained what happened after they defeated Malachar. The remaining Crimson Inquisition ships fled into hyperspace. The freed dragons were recovering with help from Lyrandel's sisters. Earth's casualties were high, but not as bad as feared. Most ships evacuated before being destroyed. Captain Lisa Grant survived, though her fighter took heavy damage. Commander Ben Carter coordinated rescue operations across the orbital zone. Admiral Kate Sullivan was being called a hero for leading Earth's defense. But the real heroes, everyone said, were Jake Lyrandel and Ashenclaw. The tri-bond saved the planet. News of the battle spread across the galaxy faster than anyone expected. Multiple empires sent messages to Earth. Some offered congratulations. Some offered trade agreements. Some wanted to study the tri-bond phenomenon. The Eldari Empress Seraphina herself requested to visit. Earth Ambassador Claire Hayes was coordinating diplomatic responses. Earth suddenly had more attention than it could handle. Lyrandel helped Jake walk to the window. Outside, he could see Ashenclaw resting in a large courtyard. The dragon's wounds were healing, but slowly. Burns covered his scales from absorbing the World Breaker energy, but Ash was alive. And that was what mattered. Other dragons rested nearby. the freed ones from Malakar's control. They refused to leave until they thanked their liberators personally. Princess Meridian and her sisters were helping care for the dragons. They also searched for the captured princesses. Malakar's command ship was destroyed, but other Inquisition vessels were caught. Rescue teams found imprisonment cells. Inside were 12 Eldari princesses who had been missing for years. They were weak and traumatized, but alive. Their dragons were the ones Lyrandel freed during the battle. The reunions were emotional. Several princesses wept when they saw their dragons again. The bonds had been damaged by the control collars, but with time and care they could heal. One of the rescued princesses was named Lady Evelyn. She had been Malakar's prisoner for over a decade. She asked to meet Jake. When they met, she bowed so deeply her forehead touched the floor. She said Jake's actions saved not just her, but countless others. Malakar was dead, and his organization shattered. Without his leadership, the Crimson Inquisition would collapse. Worlds he conquered could finally be free. Jake felt uncomfortable with so much gratitude. He said he just did what anyone would do. Lady Evelyn laughed. She said that was exactly why humans were special. They could not see how rare their compassion was. Most species in the galaxy valued power over kindness. Earth proved that strength and compassion could exist together. 2 weeks after the battle, the Empress of the Eldari Empire arrived. Her ship was magnificent. It was 10 times larger than any other vessel in orbit. Gold and silver designs covered its hull. When Serafina descended to Earth, she brought an honor guard of 100 warriors, but she left her weapons in orbit as a sign of peace. The Empress looked like an older version of Lyrandel. Her hair was white and her eyes held ancient wisdom. She met with Earth's leaders in a formal ceremony. Ambassador Hayes represented humanity. Serafina spoke, and her words were translated for everyone to hear. She said she came to apologize. She apologized for exiling her daughter. She apologized for the Eldari Empire's arrogance. She apologized for not stopping Malakar sooner. Her voice carried genuine regret. Then she made an unprecedented offer. The Eldari Empire would establish an equal alliance with Earth, not as master and servant, but as true partners. Earth would receive technology and knowledge. In exchange, Earth would share its unique perspective. The Empress said her empire had grown stale and cruel. It needed fresh ideas to survive. Humanity's compassion and adaptability could help reform galactic civilization. Ambassador Hayes asked what would happen to Lyrandel. Serafina looked at her youngest daughter with sad eyes. She said Lyrandel was free to choose her own path. If she wanted to return home and help reform the Empire, she would be welcomed. If she wanted to stay on Earth, she had that right too. The choice was hers alone. Lyrandel thought carefully before answering. She said she wanted to help both worlds. She would travel between Earth and the Eldari homeworld. She would be a bridge between species, but Earth would always be special to her. It was the first place that valued her for who she was, not for what she could do. Jake stood beside her and said he would go with her. The tri-bond meant their destinies were linked. Where she went, he would follow. Ashenclaw rumbled agreement from outside. The dragon said he finally found bond partners worthy of his ancient lineage. He would not abandon them. Serafina smiled. She said the tri-bond was a miracle she never expected to see. It proved that the old ways could evolve into something better. She officially recognized Jake as a Dragon Knight, the first non-Eldari to ever hold that title. Over the following months, Earth transformed rapidly. The Eldari shared technology for energy generation and medicine. Human engineers combined it with their own innovations. Cities became cleaner and more efficient. Diseases that plagued humanity for centuries were cured. Space travel became accessible to more people. The lunar base was expanded into a proper city. It became the Galactic Embassy. Representatives from dozens of empires established offices there. Trade agreements were signed. Cultural exchanges began Earth's art, and music fascinated alien species. Human literature was translated into hundreds of languages. In return, Earth learned about ancient philosophies and sciences. The freed dragons bonded with people from multiple species. It turned out humans were not unique in their ability to form tri-bonds. Any being with enough compassion could connect with dragons. This discovery changed everything. Dragons were no longer tools of the Eldari Empire. They became partners to anyone worthy, regardless of origin. Princess Meridian led the effort to establish dragon sanctuaries, places where the creatures could live freely and choose their own bonds. Lady Evelyn and several other rescued princesses stayed on Earth. They found peace on the human world. Commander Ben Carter joked with Jake that his friend's life got too exciting. From cargo pilot to dragon-riding diplomat in just a few months, Jake laughed and agreed, but he would not change anything. He found purpose in helping bridge the gap between species. Captain Lisa Grant was promoted to admiral. She commanded Earth's growing space fleet. The ships combined human and alien technology. They were not the most powerful in the galaxy, but they were respected. The Creventhi warrior clans sent fighters to train with Earth's military. They said humans fought with honor and creativity. The Gen Consortium opened trade routes through human territory. Earth became a hub for galactic commerce. Even small factions and independent worlds sent representatives. They wanted to be part of the new alliance forming around Earth. Not everyone was happy with the changes. Some humans feared alien influence. Some aliens resented Earth's rapid rise to prominence. There were protests and conflicts, but Ambassador Hayes worked tirelessly to address concerns. She reminded everyone that peace required constant effort. Lyrandel split her time between Earth and the Eldari homeworld. She worked with her mother to reform imperial laws. Slavery was abolished. Conquered worlds were offered independence. Military expansion was halted. Not all nobles agreed with the changes. Some resisted, but with Lyrandel and her sisters united, the resistance crumbled. The empire began to heal from centuries of corruption. Jake traveled with Lyrandel to alien worlds. He met species and saw sights no other human witnessed. Ashenclaw carried them across the galaxy. Through the tri-bond, they experienced everything together. Joy and sorrow, wonder and fear. They faced challenges on every world, but they faced them as partners. One night, they stood on a cliff overlooking an alien ocean. 3 moons hung in the purple sky. Lyrandel asked Jake if he ever regretted his choice. He thought about his quiet life as a cargo pilot, the simple routine of deliveries and maintenance. Then he thought about everything that happened, the friends he made, the worlds he saw, the difference he helped create. He said he had no regrets. He saved someone who needed help. Everything else followed from that one decision. Lyrandel leaned against him. She said humans had a gift for stating profound truths simply. That was why the galaxy needed them. Ashenclaw's mental voice rumbled with amusement. The dragon said humans were occasionally wise, but mostly they were stubborn. That stubbornness helped them survive impossible situations. It was both their weakness and strength. Jake smiled. Coming from an ancient dragon, that was high praise. 6 months after the battle, Earth hosted its first galactic festival. Ships from hundreds of worlds came to celebrate. The lunar embassy was decorated with lights and banners. Humans and aliens mingled freely. There was music and food from across the galaxy. Children played together, regardless of species. Admiral Kate Sullivan gave a speech about unity and hope. She said Earth proved that newcomers could make a difference. Age and experience mattered less than character and courage. Ambassador Hayes announced new exploration missions. Human and alien crews would map unknown regions together. They would search for lost civilizations and new friends. Captain Grant unveiled the new flagship of Earth's fleet. It was named Ashenclaw in honor of the dragon who saved them. The ship combined the best technology from a dozen species. Jake Lyrandel and Ashenclaw attended the festival together. People wanted to meet them and thank them. They signed autographs and posed for pictures. Children asked to touch Ashenclaw's scales. The dragon allowed it with surprising patience. At the end of the night, they found a quiet corner. The Pa. 3 Bond partners sat together watching fireworks light up space. Lyrandel said this was more than she dreamed possible. A year ago, she was alone and hunted. Now she had family and purpose. Jake said Earth gave her sanctuary. She gave Earth the galaxy. It was a fair trade. Ashenclaw said they were all being too sentimental, but his mental tone was warm and content. As the fireworks continued, a message came through on long-range sensors. Admiral Sullivan contacted Jake privately. She said the sensors detected something strange at the galaxy's edge, energy signatures that did not match any known technology. Whatever sent them was powerful, possibly more powerful than anything the galaxy encountered before. The source was moving. Coming closer, Sullivan said it might be nothing, or it might be the next great challenge. Either way, Earth would face it with allies and friends, with courage and hope. Jake looked at Lyrandel and Ashenclaw. Through their bond, he felt their determination. They would face whatever came together. The galaxy was vast and full of mysteries, but Earth was no longer alone, and that made all the difference. As the festival continued into the night, Jake thought about how one simple choice changed everything. He saw flames and went to help. That choice saved a princess, united an empire, and gave humanity its place among the stars. He wondered what choices tomorrow would bring, what new adventures waited. But that was a story for another day. Tonight was for celebration, for friendship, for the bonds that connected all living beings, and for the future they would build together. The fireworks exploded in brilliant colors. Dragons roared in joy. Humans and aliens danced under alien skies. And somewhere in the darkness beyond the galaxy, ancient eyes watched and waited. The end.